The River Charm is my new book, inspired by this family. It's the story of Charlotte Elizabeth Atkinson, and she was named after her mother, Charlotte, and like her mother, she was also fiery and strong-willed. She was the eldest child in the family, and she lived a life of luxury growing up in a grand estate down in the southern highlands of New South Wales called Oldbury. She had a life filled with books and with art and with learning and with love, until one day disaster struck and her beloved father died. Her mother was left with 4 young children and a huge estate to run, including several cattle stations and sheep stations. Well, of course, a young widow was a tempting target. The convicts began to rebel. Bushrangers attacked the estate over and over again. Workers were murdered. Charlotte's mother herself was captured and threatened with death. So Charlotte, in desperation, made a hasty marriage to her overseer called George Barton. It was a terrible mistake. George Barton was an alcoholic, violent madman. It was a terrible, terrible thing. So finally, in fear for their lives, the family fled on horseback to a tiny little stockman's hut in the wilderness. They took with them only a few belongings, including their pet koala Maugie and her mother's writing desk. But their sanctuary there was very short-lived. Things got worse. The executors, who decided that a mere woman couldn't possibly look after her own affairs, decided to sell off all the sheep and the cattle and to lease out the family home to strangers. Worse than that, they decided to take away Charlotte's children. Well, Charlotte wasn't going to stand for that. She was an extraordinary woman, and she took on the entrenched sexism of the 19th century legal system. She fought for her children, she fought for her independence, and she was just absolutely remarkable. So in this terrible time when they were so poor, the children were virtually starving, Charlotte decided to write a book. Luckily, it was a bestseller, the first children's book published in Australia, and the family's fortunes were turned.